Welcome to Small Business Saturday.
Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into Small Business Saturdays. My name's Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com. Got an exciting program. I've been blessed. I had a guest last week, and I've got another wonderful guest today. We're going to be talking to Tanya Deutscher about networking 101. So excited to have that conversation, but let's first start off and see who's checking in with us here this morning. And let's see here. I know Sharon. I saw Sharon earlier. Good morning, Sharon. Happy Saturday to you. And Becky, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Yeah, so going to be a great conversation. In fact, just in the 5-10 minutes before we got started, Tanya and I already had a wonderful conversation, so I could just leave happy, but it's my job to share her with you guys here in just a moment. So really want you guys to participate. Tell us about your experiences with networking, what it means to you. Let's just make this a fun conversation. Sandy, good morning. Hopefully you are doing well. Sorry you didn't get to join us last night at the virtual cocktail party because of the day job, but we had a good time. So, but got out of there earlier than we have in any of the previous events. So if you've missed those or you're ready for the next one, we will be back in 2 weeks having another virtual cocktail party. So details will come out about that soon. But without further ado, let me bring Tanya in here. Good morning, Tanya. How are you?
Good morning. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am doing great. So you're coming to us from Iowa, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm in Burlington, Iowa, where my grandma left me a house. We come down here to chill out and do some stuff. There's some people doing some work next door, but they're not going to do any of the cutting until I'm done.
Well, that's nice of them. A nice neighborhood that people are
Yep.
allowing us to do this little program here this morning. So,
yep. And I just put Asia in the house because she would have just howled the whole time. So,
all right. Well, tell Asia good morning for us, and
will do.
Nice. So, Tanya, thank you very much, first and foremost, for suggesting this topic. I was a little bit stuck when we were doing Q&A with TNA, and I was making a plea, and you helped me out. So, sure. Let's start off with networking. Help me out with defining what networking is. Kind of what does a small business get out of networking? So, kind of handle both of those questions for me, if you don't mind.
For me, I had always been one that was very happy being behind the scenes doing production and letting Jay take care of all of the front end stuff. But in the last couple of years, he and another employee were in BNI, and we saw the benefits that greatly increased our business. And so they're like, you should really be in a group too. And I'm like, nope, not going to do it. So I started, reaching out to other people, and it brings it back to your business. If you can help someone out, if you can go out and meet someone and not just pass out a business card, not just make a cold call, then they will remember you in the future. And for us, even in the last 6 months of me finally being a little bit more comfortable, I still get terribly, terribly nervous. So I'm not saying that. I just I'm going to do this live, or I'm going to go to this event. Mm-hmm. The phone has been ringing more, and people will search me out if they have a question, and I'm more than happy to help with that. And so I take it from a standpoint of I want to help others. And then if I need help, I have professionals at my disposal that I can say, hey, I'm stuck. What can I do? And they're not going to be like, I don't know who you are. Correct. So it's keeping you kind of top of mind in other people's minds, and then they see you as a resource and vice versa.
Sure. Oh, that's wonderful. I think that your point about, going at it from a helping others perspective. I was told by a gentleman, it's been a few years ago now that we had this conversation, but it stuck with me the whole time. And he said, you can't outgive the universe. And,
right.
The more you can kind of understand that, I think the more you get back in return, and that's really a cool experience. So maybe from there, Tanya, help me kind of get to, what are then, you mentioned the phones ringing a little bit more, but what's the major value in participating here?
Business, obviously. But if you approach it from, in BNI, they call it giver's gain. What you give, you'll get back. And that's completely true. When I first joined, I'm like, I'm just not getting this giver's gain thing. But it does help. You can brainstorm then with people. People will call you up and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And you can tell them what resources that you have, or you might think of something that they hadn't thought of. So, I mean, for me, it's just a good. I mean, you obviously have people out there that aren't the best people that will try to take advantage, but you just have to kind of keep your guard up until you get to know someone really well. But that's the other thing about networking too, is that you develop trust. And trust is, in the forefront of everything. You get to trust other professionals and you have that network.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the point that you make there about, making sure that, networking doesn't just mean you're going in and you're, handing out business cards and yeah, and I think that's where some people get hung up with networking is they do think it's just this, exchanging business card kind of thing. And, only the good salespeople are going to benefit from it. And, but like you said, you can kind of, the red flags will go off around the people that aren't coming to it with the right attitude. And there's plenty of other people there, right? That you can just kind of go, okay, let's navigate away from them. And let's go find somebody that, yeah. So Tanya, it's something that can be pretty scary for a lot of people. Crazy as this may sound, I actually typically am horrified of networking events, regardless of the fact that I've been doing these videos and things like that for a long time. But what's, how was that for you? What have you done to kind of overcome any of that? If you've experienced that, what are some tips there?
Well, I started out, I was actually subbing in groups for people. Courtney was pregnant at the time. And when she was on maternity leave, I didn't want to have Jay driving up to Mankato because our meetings are an hour from us. Okay. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go. And it was terrifying. It was walking through the door and you have to give a 60-second commercial every week. And leading up to that, I typically didn't hear anything else, because I was trying not to have to run to the bathroom because my stomach was so nervous and I was in knots, or, worrying about, am I going to be tongue tied? And now if I get tongue tied, I'm like, oh, okay, move on.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how it started for me. And then just over time, it got more comfortable, and then meeting with people one-on-one to establish those relationships, because those are really important. It's, like I said, not just passing a business card. And then it's just gotten easier over time. It's still not my favorite thing to do always, but sure. I'm finding it helps me reach out in my own business, doing lives on my own, being on something like this with you. And I've been on with Christine Shreve a couple of times. And before, Jay's like, I never would have imagined that you would have done anything like this. Sure. And so it's been a really good growth thing for me. And part of my philosophy is that, okay, I'm just going to do it. And if I flub up, it's okay. People aren't going to hate me. And if they do, then they don't need to be in my life.
Correct. No, that's a very good perspective. Yes. And I've kind of discovered that it's not if you're going to flub up, it's when you're going to flub up. Yep. And again, that's okay. I think that kind of, again, it attracts the appropriate people. The people that are going to let you off the hook for flubbing up are the people that you want in your life. And
right.
Yeah. So,
well, and I can also say that, like I'm listening to Shonda Rhimes' book right now, and she's, this famous television producer, and she has these exact same issues. And so educating yourself and listening to books or reading books, I think also helps as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And you totally agree with that, with let's get that other perspective and what is this person doing? And they seem to be very successful with it. So what can we emulate in them? Do you happen to know the name of Shonda's book? I was just kind of looking it up here real quick, but
I think it's Yes, here I can tell you. Hold on a second.
Okay. All right. I'll let you do that. So one other, while you're looking that up, I'm going to share one other tip that I know I've used as far as when we're talking about getting over the scariness of it. I found that if I show up to the event or whatever the situation is, 5-10 minutes early at least, that actually, that act of like kind of getting there before all of the crowd's there, and the organizers are probably there, maybe a couple of other folks that you can just start into a couple of more one-on-one conversations before there's 30 people around the room, that you kind of that's kind of the practice, making sure that, like you said, you've got a kind of a little bit of an elevator pitch that you need to have. So
I used to be famous for sneaking in early, or sneaking in late and leaving early, because I didn't want to like have any of that. And I found that I was much more nervous and more flustered when I did that than when I started to do it the other way. The book is The Year of Yes.
The Year of Yes. Okay. We'll get that linked into the comments here so people can check that out. And I have not read that one yet, so I'm adding it to my list as well.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So we were talking about a couple of tips about ways to kind of overcome that, so like I said, for me, it was getting there early and kind of establishing some connections. The other thing that I know I've done for me, and maybe you can share how you've done this for you, is like you said, there's going to be those occasions where you may have to actually speak in front of people or kind of give a little bit of a pitch. Have you actually then found that taking some time to actually work on that little piece to say, hey, you know what? I need to make sure that my elevator pitch makes sense and practice it a little bit. How's that work for you?
I typically don't always practice it, which I really should. But I actually presented for my BNI group last Wednesday. We all take turns doing a 10-minute presentation. And so I took the time to get my slides together for my PowerPoint. And so I knew what I was going to say. And then with it being on Zoom right now, then I have they share my slides, and I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I really kind of winged it a little bit, because I find that if I'm reading from a piece of paper, I mess up far more.
Yes. Yes. I can tell you from experience that some of the very first seminars that I ever did, I planned it all out and had, the slides, and I had pages of notes, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, I'm reading from pages of notes. So for me, I take my notes and then I take them and kind of make sure that I read through them and then bullet point out the parts that I like, okay, I have to hit this, but the rest of it's just got to be conversation, right?
Right. I mean, my first few commercials were literally like this, me looking at my phone, reading off of my phone, and people couldn't hear me because I'm pretty soft-spoken anyway. And when you're in a room full of people, they're like, we couldn't hear you. And I'm like, oh. So then I would just, during my commercials, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about. And I'll just not really wing it, but kind of wing it.
Sure. Well, I think what we don't understand and what we don't realize, that the fear kind of gets in the way, is that what you're talking about is your business, which is your passion, which is what you do. So that part's going to actually come out if you allow it, but allowing it. So that's where that practice a little bit helps. But if you're over scripted, then you're probably not in the same place. So let's see here. We've got a couple of comments coming in here, Tanya, that we'll just get with everybody here this morning. Chuck said good morning, and Wade's and Richard. Cool. So Sandy says, I am so nervous speaking to people.
Me too.
Yeah. It is interesting because I think sometimes people see, you, like you said, you've been putting yourself out there and doing a fantastic job with it and getting a lot of I think encouragement. And I know that's been the case for me too, but that doesn't mean that we're not scared to do these things. So
absolutely. And I would say too, find your core network. I have a couple of people that I talk to pretty much every day. Becky Kotzer, who was on here this morning, she's one of them. And I've met them through these groups. Good morning, Becky. And I choose people that I like and I can resonate with, but also maybe that don't have the same strengths as I do. You don't have to have someone that is going to either follow you and tell you, you're doing such a great job all the time. Someone that will call you out on the carpet and go, I don't think that's a good idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. And honestly, when you talk about that, I mean, Todd says having an outline
Mhm.
is important. Like you said there, Todd and I are kind of gravitated towards each other, but that doesn't mean that we're the exact same or that we're like, oh, you're the best. And yeah, it does take having that core network of people that are willing to say, hey, you need to
Right.
do this a little bit differently, and in a way that it's not like you're getting punished.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Well, and there's a lot of, networking can take many forms. It can be a group, it can be an organization like BNI. And I'm not here to sell BNI. I just
sure,
wanted to tell people my experience because lately a lot of people have been asking me about what it is.
sure.
Women in garment decoration has been my saving grace this year. At first in the beginning of this year, I needed a place to go that Jay couldn't see. He had had a heart attack, and I needed a place to be able to voice my fear and my frustration or whatever that it wouldn't stress him out. And so the ladies stepped up and they're like, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about here. And so now it's one of my favorite places to go.
Sure.
So
Sure. No, that's a great point, and I think really maybe the next thing we could talk about here for just a second, Tanya, is you mentioned that when a lot of times when we think of networking, we do think of a BNI or a formal kind of networking group, but you mentioned a Facebook group like the Women in Garment Decorating group. Everything that I hear about it's fantastic, and honestly, I'm just a slight bit proud to be just a hair part of, because Christine is amazing. She's
yes,
one of
she
the
is.
best people in the industry that I know. And as we were talking about having her on the podcast to do that, you could kind of sense, and so we were able to kind of, hey, say, okay, Christine, here, take this, and then she grew it from there, and it was like, wow, this is really cool to finally have a movement like that is, I think, making a difference for people. So.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So what are some other maybe networking kind of things? You were talking before we started about something that you guys did, I believe, yesterday, but what are some other kind of networking stuff that maybe people should think about?
Well, yesterday, since we're out of town, not in our home area, Jay had done this before, but I had never gone to other shops in town. And he's like, I really want you to see the shops. And both the business owners who were women were both there. And I was able to talk to them both and give them my information and say, hey, there's our success group on Facebook. There's the Women in Garment Decoration group. I do lives. These other people do lives. Shirt Lab is coming up next week. And I didn't have any business cards with me, which was really silly, but they gave me Post-it notes and I just kept writing. And they're like, wow, thank you so much for all of this, great information. And I'm like, oh, and there's this one too. And I recommend this. And for the first time, Jay kind of stood back and I did most of the talking for a while, and then he kind of was taking phone calls and things like that. So, and it ended up being a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And, last year I would have been like, nope, it's all you. I don't want to go do that.
Sure.
But I feel like, the one lady, she's like, let's, next time you're in town, let's get together and let's have lunch. And she goes, I will be Facebook messaging you. And I'm like, that's absolutely fine.
Sure. Well, so I think that also leads us into an interesting conversation about this whole thing. And again, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but just listening to you talk about how you experience this, it all comes from this place of helping the other people, as opposed to you going into this with like, okay, what is this going to do for me and my business? So maybe talk to us a little bit about that.
This year has been really hard. I know some people know the story and some don't.
Sure.
My husband had a major health crisis in January, and we're still dealing with it and we'll be dealing with it.
Sure.
My way of coping seems to be reaching out to others to see what I can do to help. I post on the Women in Garment Decoration thing often.
Sure.
I created a Facebook group called Inspire, Collaborate, and Encourage, where I'm bringing experts, in a call. How can they help little businesses from home base to whatever, or else just encouraging stories. That seems to be what's helping me, because I could have just crawled in a corner and gave up, or you move forward. And in our town, we collaborated with another garment decorator and did Martin County Strong. And last week we wrote out $9,440 in checks to local businesses based off of t-shirt sales. And now we're in our second wave of that. And a byproduct of that, even though we didn't go in with the premise of getting anything in return, is that our phone is ringing. People have a renewed respect for both businesses. And for us, it showed, they are still here, even though Jay is taking a step back or pivoting.
Sure.
So that has been, in BNI, they call it giver's gain. What you give will come back to you. And I've definitely seen that. When I first, heard the term giver's gain, I didn't understand it. I'm like, well, I don't understand how that works, but I can now see that has that potential. You give to someone else and they're going to be more willing to help you out. You have those experts at your disposal that you've gotten to know.
Sure. I love that. I love giver's gain. That's a great way to some of the stuff that I've been involved with, they talk about that in the form of like law of attraction, or, right. I told the story to you earlier and on here about, you can't outgive the universe kind of thing. So that's great. So Jay actually says, I was speechless watching Tanya come into her own comfort level in visiting and networking with people she didn't know. So getting the pat on the back there from your husband. And Dottie says, so true. So that's a wonderful. So Tanya, you've talked a little bit about BNI already. To tell us about that. You tell us about that experience. I know there's been some discussion, Todd and myself and whatever, and everybody's going to be a little bit different. You said, you're not here to sell BNI, but it sounds like for you guys, it's been a really amazing experience.
It has. There's actually 5 businesses in our small town that do what we do.
Okay.
And there's also a big company that came in and signed contracts with all the schools. So we lost all the school business. Wow. Or the majority of the school business. So we're like, okay, now what are we going to do? And so Jay joined BNI first, and it got us into doing more business to business. And then when Courtney came on full time, she was in a group. She's no longer full time with us right now. So we're not in that group, but it just helped. We got those connections, and people were bringing us the business to business and referring us to others. And then when it was brought up to me, I'm like, nope, I don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. The first group I visited was not a good fit. And I will say the group makes a huge difference. If you're going to investigate BNI, go and feel out the groups. You can visit a group twice before having to make a decision. You will either gel with them or you won't. And I know that a lot of people have said that, my experience at BNI was awful. And that's not true of every group. My group is very new. I was actually in it from the ground floor up, which I think made a difference for me personally. But as a personal aspect, it's helped me grow to get to the point where I can be on here without wanting to crawl in a corner or be afraid that I would, flub up my words or, have spit flying out of my mouth or whatever. But for our business, it does keep our phone ringing and just a blessing.
Yeah. Well, I like that you mentioned about the fact that, go visit the group, and because my experience was a bit different but I've only checked out one group locally here. So this kind of tells me that I need to kind of go a little bit beyond that comfort zone, because for me, the initial process of just having somebody try to get me to visit a group was so excruciating and painful that I felt like I was being sold a used car.
Well, and right now, all of our meetings are online, which I personally love.
Sure.
And so it's actually a great way to visit any group. I would encourage anyone who wants to visit a group or groups, let me know. I'll invite you to visit my group virtually. Jay's in a group. He would have you in his group, and they're different. The people are different. The BNI, Jay and I kept popping in and out of the cocktail hour last night because on Friday nights, his group does a virtual cocktail hour as well. And we've gotten to know those people even better that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even though I don't like what's happened this year with having to do a lot of things online and things like that, that has been another way of networking that's been great as well, because there were a couple people that I probably wouldn't have gotten to know that, you can put up walls or perceive someone in one way and they just might be really nervous, but you think that they're not a kind person. And now we're like, wow, that person is really amazing. I'm glad I took the time to get to know them
Yeah.
and not judge them.
Correct. And I think that's a fantastic point, that all too often we kind of make that snap decision, and then that opportunity is lost if we allow that. So I love that. All right. Well, Jay's got a couple of other things here that we want to, oops, I hit the wrong one here. So first, he had a shout out to Sarah, I think Cyphers. Does that sound?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. At DNS Trophies, who network with us on the Martin County Strong project. So if you want to check that out, there's the link down there to go see what going on over there. So, I mean, 9,000 plus, you said 9,000, what,
Yes.
400?
$9,440. And that was on the first wave. And we just reopened the store with new products.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, another round of applause. That's awesome.
We're so happy.
Yeah, that is so cool. And then Jay said, the social hours and virtual happy hours are pure networking. It's business and personal. It brings people together in a setting where guards are let down and two personalities that people tend to shine through. I think that's really a cool thought there as well from Jay. I mean, just like you said, you guys were bouncing back and forth between some virtual cocktail parties last night. And that's what we've loved about the fact of what we've been doing with the decorators community cocktail parties, is the fact that, there's sometimes some awkward silences. There's sometimes, it's like any opportunity.
Right.
But at a certain point, people just start sharing, and who knows? Heck, last night the conversation spent a good bit of time on vampires.
I missed that part.
Yeah, I think that was when you were gone for a little bit. So we talked vampires. I mean, it just goes all over the board. But you get to know people about who they really are, and I think that's really the big value of networking in general. So, all right, let's see here. What does Sharon have to say? I'm just reading this now. What if you work a full-time job and attending meetings at BNI? How often are meetings, and what are the requirements?
Meetings are at different times. There's 3 groups in Mankato. I think that's right. One or maybe 4. 1, 2. There's 4 in Mankato, which is just unheard of.
Yeah.
And there's 2 lunchtime meetings and there's 2 morning meetings. So if it works out in your schedule to do the early morning ones, then that's great. They do take attendance. I mean, everything's tracked because, if you put the investment out there, just like your OSG trainings, you're more likely to follow through.
Sure.
So there are guidelines for the attendance, and they track, one-to-ones, thank you for closed business, and not to be punishing at all, but it just kind of makes you strive for the goals, and passing referrals and things like that. So it's not like if you show up to BNI and you didn't pass enough referrals, they're not going to slap you on the hand. But if you're not doing anything, they will talk to you about how can we help you, be a really good referral partner.
Sure.
So it's finding a time that works for you. They are an hour and a half, but one of the goals is they start on time and they end on time. But the attendance, it can be a tough one for people. I know for me, mine is a lunch meeting in Mankato on Wednesdays. And so when I go, Wednesdays is a lost office day.
Okay.
I spend my day on Wednesday going up there, doing my networking meeting, and then I do my one-to-ones, meeting with people individually. And that's just kind of how I've arranged my schedule. So if you work a full-time job, I can see where that would be really tough. And I would encourage you to do other networking things like groups on Facebook, and things of that nature. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, BNI is one of them, but there's lots of other opportunities out there. So
your local chamber of commerces typically have things. In Mankato, there's Greater Mankato Growth. There's a thing called 1 Million Cups, which I haven't taken part of, but I think that that's a national thing that they have in various communities where they have speakers every week. And I think that those are free. I could be wrong on that. I'm not I'm
Sure.
not sure. I know that other BNI members in our area are very active with 1 million cups, but I've not ever done it because it's typically early in the morning.
Yeah. This early morning stuff is for the birds. So.
Well, especially if you have to drive an hour.
Exactly. Nice. All right. So the listeners checking out in this morning here, let us know what some of the other networking things are that you guys have done and what you found success in. In fact, Jay is producing in the background for us, so we appreciate that very much. Chamber of Commerce, Leeds, Rotary, Kiwanis. There's all sorts of different amazing opportunities, and I think a big part of it is just get out there and do it, right? I mean,
Right. Reach out to people, become someone's expert, and have someone else become yours. You develop that level of trust, and then they're going to be more apt to refer you on to their people, because they don't want to have say, oh, hey, to my best friend, I know someone who could do this for you, and then not know you and have you not call them back or not do a good job. If they know you and they've worked with you and they've talked with you, then there's going to be that level of trust there.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, that regardless of the digital age that we're in and forced into even more at this point, I mean, there's business is still about people and still about the trust. And, if you're going to be talking to your best friend about something that they need, you don't want to put them into a bad experience. And how do you know if it's going to be a good experience until you've been able to talk to that person and get to know them and trust them? So that's a really good point. Good. Okay, cool. Well, let's, like I said, if you guys are listening in, let us know some other ideas. Jay has already shared some great ideas, but if anybody else has anything else, please feel free to put that out there. But talk to me a little bit, Tanya, about what you are involved in right now, as far as what else is happening for you. I know you've put some designs out there. What else is going on in your world, since you don't have enough to do, it sounds like?
I developed an Equid site, thanks to you guys talking about Equid, for Gracie B. Doodle Designs. And there's also it's a private Facebook group where people can come together and I can talk about my designs, but we can also, again, network and work together. And like Becky Kotzer does some things that I don't do. So I will get things from her. She'll get things from me. And so it's this really great partnership. But Gracie B. Doodle Designs, I have digital downloads on there, and there will be some blanks as well for sublimation, because sublimation has kind of been a renewed love of mine, and trying to figure out some different ways to get some other products out there. So we have that, inspire, collaborate, and encourage. I'm trying to get some more speakers. I just haven't had time to get them all rolled out, of exactly that. People to inspire, collaborate, and encourage with one another, whether it be business or personal, or, if you have a story to tell, let me know and we'll do a live about it. And that's been a blessing too. The first one I did had 3 speakers on it, and they were BNI members, to bring some value to anywhere from home-based businesses to brick and mortars. And that was a good experience. And the nice thing is that once the videos are done, we can continue to share them. I've had a number of opportunities for the website designer and Julie Fredrickson, who I believe is now scheduled on your show for later this summer, about digital marketing and social media, of, hey, go back and watch this video. And then if you're interested in me introducing you, then I will be happy to do that. So it's another tool in the toolbox of what can we do to help and establish that level of trust.
Yeah. That's great. Yes. And I'm looking forward to talking with Julie. That'll be a blast. And I've seen what you guys have done together too. And so I've got to step up my game.
Well, it was really fun because we were trying to do a live through Zoom, which failed for both of us. And then I got to talking to her. I'm like, well, you know what? Aaron and Todd and Christine, they use StreamYard. She's like, I've kind of heard about that. And so then we went and did a test with that, and it ended up being an impromptu Q&A
There you go.
that
There
I
you go.
totally was not prepared for, but it was fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great service, and we've had a lot of fun with it, and have done some cool things with it. So, all right. So Jerry says school open house at the start of the school year, where all the clubs and teams are set up to talk to you. Work great for us. So there's another networking opportunity. Perfect. Okay, guys. So what else do we have? Anything else from the folks listening in? If you got any more questions for Tanya or myself, and tell me one more time, Gracie B. What's the website there?
Gracie B. Doodle. Oh, I should have written it down.
That's okay. Is it BEE or just B? The letter B.
Just the letter B, because it stands for Gracie is Gracie Lou, which is Asia. B is Brewer, and Doodle is our Labradoodle. So that's how I came up with the name. It was just something fun and quirky. It's graciebdoodle.company.site, I think. Otherwise, if anyone messages me later, I can get that, the Equid site. Otherwise, it's Gracie B. Doodle Designs on Facebook.
Okay. I think that's what I found first there, as far as yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get that into the comments too, and make sure that people check that out. I know my wife has used some of your designs for her business at weheart.biz with the garden flag. Yeah. It's actually been a great seller for her too.
Awesome.
So thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. All right, cool, Tanya. Anything else that you want to leave people with before we call it a day? We're over our typical 30-minute time limit.
Just go out and get out of your comfort zone. Sometimes we get in our own way, and I know that's always been the case with me. I get in my own way and I get in my own head. Just do it. I tell Becky all the time I'm going to get her on a live. She's like, nope, I don't do lives. I'm like, yep, you're going to do a live. Just we're gonna get you to do it, and not to be mean either. I'm not telling anyone, oh, you need to pull on your big girl panties or whatever. That's not the case. But sometimes just doing it will make you more comfortable. I mean, I know when I started out, I was talking in the business basics group. I'm like, oh, this was horrible, blah, 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 blah. But then I got really good feedback, and that helps as well.
Yeah.
And again, if anyone's interested in doing a BNI group, let me know and I'll invite you. They're every Wednesday. This Wednesday is not going to work because I am going to have a sub because I'm doing Shirt Lab.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So any Wednesday, but this one. Yep. All right. Awesome. So Becky did get us.
Oh, thank you, Becky.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. There it is. So you can go check that out, or just click on that link over at Facebook there. And Becky, you can do it. We know you can do it. So you will be amazing at it for sure. So
she will.
Yeah. Jump on there with Tanya. You guys do, because that was the other thing that for me. I started Two Regular Guys with Terry because, I was horrified, but having somebody else to kind of bounce things off of is a great way to get started. I know for my wife, she's been doing different things. Yeah, having that partner in crime, so to speak, to kind of
right.
Yeah, for sure. So Becky says, I'm getting there. Perfect. We're proud of you. Dottie says, love listening. Definitely inspired to network more. Good.
Good. That makes me happy.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Tanya. Well, I'm going to let you get back to a relaxing weekend, hopefully there for you, and say hello to Jay for us and Asia and all the pups. And so Shirt Lab coming up. So it's shirtlabsummit.com is where you can check that out. And so we'll be tuned in. I think I'm supposed to be doing their Facebook Live thing Monday night, I think at 5:30 Central Time. I'll have to go check my calendar here, but
I need to go look at all the schedule.
Yeah, exactly. Go check that out. So, but it's a free event. So if you want to check that out, it's like I said, shirtlabsummit.com and go check that out and get signed up for that with some great information coming up. And the guys over at Shirt Lab.
Again, what a cool way to network. I know that they're going to have a virtual cocktail party tomorrow night, and it's a way to just meet some new people. It'll be interesting because there's going to be so many of us, because I think I heard there's like 2,100 as of yesterday or the day before signed up. So
yeah, it should be, trying to heard 100 plus people on a Zoom call could be pretty entertaining. But just being able to sit back and take some of that in too,
Right.
if that's a big part. So, but then there'll be plenty of opportunities throughout their Facebook group and stuff like that. So definitely worth checking out. All right, good deal. Thank you so much, Tanya. We appreciate your time this morning, and
thank you.
we'll talk to you very soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Awesome. Well, that was awesome. That was amazing. Great information. It makes me also very inspired to get out there and do more networking and get in front of people and share. I love the helping side of it. I think that's probably the number one key as far as I'm concerned. If you're looking to do networking, if you go into it with a what's in this for me mentality, it may not be as successful as you want. But if you go into it with a how can I help others, and then allow the reciprocation of that, I think you're going to have a lot better experience. So wonderful stuff. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I've got some yard work to do and other fun stuff. So hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your Saturday and weekend, and we will catch up with everybody soon. The next thing coming up for my little community here is Todd's going to have Tuesdays with Todd at 4:00 Central Time. So if you'll check in here at our Success Group Pro on Facebook, just go to facebook.com/our Success Group Pro. You can check that out. And Wednesday will be our next Q&A with TNA with Todd and Aaron. So thank you guys very much. We will talk to you. Oh boy, I guess on Tuesday I'll be in the comments there, but you can find me anywhere on Facebook at any time. All right, everybody have a good weekend. Bye-bye.